What's up, everybody? Welcome to the CanesInSight Daily podcast, powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Sorry for the earlier issue there. We're working through these mics. And just going through some technical stuff as usual. But we had to give it to you, man. The exclusive report from practice number 2. It's Friday afternoon. Appreciate everybody joining us. Hopefully finishing up your work day. Sebastian Font did a nice practice recap earlier today, right after the practice. So it was fresh on his mind, the media portion of practice. So check that one out while you'll hear, just really kind of his instant reaction to everything that's going on. I will give some more. There you go. Derek Cook says we can hear. I will talk about the media portion of practice. Can't talk about the other stuff. Not allowed to. But you want to hear that stuff. The only place I'm allowed to talk about it, CanesConnection.com. Sign up, CanesConnection.com/CIS, promo code SIS50, promo code SIS50 on CanesConnection.com/CIS. Then I can give you, when you're part of this, I can give you the other part of the practice. Now, we can only talk about the media. Those are the rules. So, but I'll do my best to answer questions and talk about what happened today. And again, check out Sebastian's practice report as well. Some folks that do not require a fee. They only get paid when you get paid. That's Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or somebody you care has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. All right, so just kind of wrapping up the media portion, which for those who don't know, practice is divided into different parts. They allow the media in for the first part, which is like one-on-one drills, just kind of independent stuff where the guys are running around routes on air and stuff like that. Then also the competitive one-on-ones. And then there's some 7-on-7 usually mixed in there, or at least, maybe there won't be the full assortment, but there'll be just the DBs and the receivers. So they'll work it out that way. But as far as practice, you're still wearing helmets and shorts. And then the spiders, which are just kind of like thin foam things on there on the shoulder pads. But really, it's, again, still early. I kind of just look for big picture things. So when you hear me, you hear the big picture type of thoughts. Like, I'm not going to get too deep into offensive line, like production, linebacker, kind of tackling production. Remember, these are not full contact type deals. So there's only so much you can glean. A lot of it's just kind of physical, how guys moving around, how healthy do guys look, where are guys lining up, that kind of thing. So keep that in mind. The reason I'm keeping general is because I don't want to give you like totally specific nuggets that really don't mean anything, right? So big picture, some things that I'm catching here in day 2, focusing really more on the media part, which is Josh Moore, right? So they did the one-on-ones. Josh Moore, outstanding. He beat Ethan O'Connor on a go ball. I believe it was Luke Nickel that threw the ball. And Josh Moore, man, he's just physically, the guy looks the part. He is every bit of 6'4", 200 plus, and he can run, man. He's not, Andre Johnson's speed where he's an elite kind of runner, but he's definitely not slow. He's not like a Daryl Langham, who's a big guy that can make contested catches, but isn't necessarily going to be running by guys. This was a straight go ball. He ran by Ethan O'Connor, who's a really athletic corner, who was one of the better freshman corners in the country last year. Georgia tried to get him real hard, and he's been good here. But Moore just ran by him and caught a touchdown. So he's got that ability. He's got the contested catch. Just really, again, what does it look like? It looks like what's it supposed to look like, I should say. It's supposed to look like that with Josh Moore. Still got work to do. He's more of, Pete said it before, he's more of a flash player at this point just because he's young. But the flashes are getting more frequent here as we move from spring into fall. Still early, but very, very productive and promising start for Josh Moore on the outside. Another guy I wanted to highlight is Damari Brown, man, the corner out of American Heritage, was a 4-star player. Might beat Nick Saban in Alabama for him 2 years ago. Has had injuries that haven't allowed him to really kind of get where he needs to get necessarily as far as how reaching his ceiling. But very physical player, likes to hit, can run with guys, can cover guys. This dude, man, I'm telling you, you go to practice and you don't know nothing about the team. I just said, who looks impressive? You're pointing to Damari Brown because he's very much like, he reminds me of Vontae Davis. If you guys remember that name, the late Vontae Davis, who was from Illinois in the college, goes to the Miami Dolphins. Maybe not quite as fast. I think Vontae Davis is more of a 4-3 type guy, but this was a player who, Damari Brown runs 4.4. He can move and he's fluid, but just the pure strength and physicality. This is a guy who really is not afraid to hit. He could easily be a safety, but at corner, he moves well enough. At least he has so far. And, it's like, I have to give what they used to say, no diddy, right? I have to do the no diddy, which is, look, if you want to look like somebody, you want to look like Damari Brown, he's like David Njoku, man. He is just, you'd think he's too muscled up to be a corner, but so far he's been able to move around and do his thing. So good start for him. I've always kind of penciled in Xavier Lucas and OJ Frederica as the top two corners because they were, OJ was the best freshman in the country last year at that position statistically. Xavier Lucas was scratching, almost there at that freshman All-America level as well. So you like both those guys. They're still doing their thing and producing. I think Damari Brown's another one where I don't say he's interchangeable with those guys yet. You have to see more consistency. Those two played much more than him last year on the field. But if you're out there at practice, you don't look at like those two guys, who I think are outstanding, Frederic and Lucas, and then see Damari Brown and see a huge physical drop-off. I mean, this is a very physically impressive player, highly recruited. Alabama wanted him. Nick Saban wanted him. They got pretty good track record with defensive backs. They like big physical guys historically who can get off blocks and tackle on top of covering. So with him, he missed a lot of time last year in injury, missed the beginning of spring this past year, finished spring and looked good, had a good summer, so far healthy, knock on wood. A lot of teams try to steal him in the portal, get him, tamper like crazy with him. I think FSU is one, but he came back and now he is playing some really, really good football. So he's in that mix too. Ethan O'Connor certainly in the mix. Charles Brantley, really feisty. He's small. He doesn't have the size of these other guys, but playmaking instincts and experience, he's right at the top. We talk about Charles Brantley, but talk about like just the whole package of size, athletic ability, and ability to play. Frederic and Lucas, what they can do. I think Damari Brown has a chance to work his way into that mix. A lot of folks here. By the way, shout out to I've met a lot of CanesInSight fans. I've been meeting a lot of CanesInSight fans at practice. Shout out to my guy Mike Robinson, the original number 8. The reason Dante Culpepper wore number 8. Mike Robinson, quarterback out of Stranahan High, my boy. So good meeting you and watching practice, getting some insight from his perspective. But yeah, those are two guys that jump out. Mohamed Toure, who, if you look at the thumbnail of this video right here, that's Mohamed Toure running. You see the big knee brace, but you also see the size, physicality. He's moving well. I mean, you notice the knee brace, and obviously you can tell who he is because he's so much stronger than the rest of the linebackers. And as a class of 2019 player, I think he's like 24, and he's a weight room beast. So yeah, you can notice him pretty easily. But the speed to me is there. He's playing 3 downs. You'll see him rush on 3rd down. He led Rutgers in sacks every year that he was healthy, but just seeing him move around in pass coverage, make plays on the ball, etc. I think that's very promising just from a kind of rehab standpoint and health standpoint, that if he's already running around making plays on the ball, you're feeling pretty good about things, man. That's a good sign that he's getting back to the form that you saw on tape when you go watch that Pinstripe Bowl against Miami and he's making every single play in the book. So again, I don't know how Mohamed Toure is going to play with pads on, tackling, reading, and reacting other than what he did on tape, which was outstanding before the injury. You're not going to get that from these practices because there's not that level of contact and physicality and taking to the ground and all those sort of things. But in terms of just the movement and the rehab, arrow up on Toure, I feel very, very good about what he's doing. Let's talk about Damari Brown, saying he was the quarterback we were most excited about last training camp, if I can recall. Yeah, man, he was the guy that got a lot of hype. It's really been injuries. He played good in that Florida game. I remember him covering Elijah Badger, who I think got drafted somewhere on day 3 for the Gators, and Brown was covering him no problem. And then ultimately, he got nicked up in that game and he missed a lot of time. He probably came back too early and it just didn't work out. So it's been injuries with him, and who knows how that progresses. But I'm very confident in the talent level. And again, Vontae Davis would be my comparison. Not saying he is as good as fast, but he's plenty fast and physically, like just strength wise, he's unique at the corner position. Even at safety, he'd be a big safety, but he's been playing all corner. Rick Flair says we need to rotate at all positions. You don't need to be an All-American to get experience. Too many juniors, sophomores that never had a snap. Why are they here? Now's the time, right? You're developing some of those guys. I think offensive line, we're comfortable how that's been going. Running back Jordan Lau got his snaps last year, and he's going to be probably the feature back this year. Wide receiver, I think it's more of a case, but we've talked about on prior shows. I think the fact that Cam Ward wanted more veterans out there and was more of a win now mode, he might have had not the patience for a Trader or a Nye Carr. Who could blame him? He had the best passing offense in the country by far, and he was the number one pick. So the people that were out there were doing what he wanted them to do. I think that's probably more fair at that position as a comparison. Tight ends, the young guys weren't here. Lawton played a lot, but like Brock Schott and Luka Gilbert weren't here. And I want to talk about the tight end position in a second. But defensive line, kind of the same thing. You did see Blunt and Scott play. They got their feet wet, but I think there were other guys ahead of them. You'll see them more this year. Linebacker, you had injuries, right, at that position. I think Kellen Wiley's a guy you can see. We'll talk about him in a second. I saw his dad was in the chat earlier. He's an impressive player, man. He's going in the right direction. And then the secondary, you just didn't have enough players, period, young or old. So I think that's maybe I'm making excuses all over the place there, but I think really the one position where you can say the young guys didn't play enough was wide receiver, and it's just tough because you had that veteran quarterback and you had the number one passing offense in the country. How much better could it have been? Might have helped you more this year, but we had to score every possession last year due to the defense. So I think, like let's say JoJo Trader, like against Cal, for example, runs the wrong route and ball's incomplete, 3 and out or whatever it was, you have to punt. You got to score every time in some of these games. So there's less room for error for those young guys. Even though if we played them more last year, obviously we'd feel better about them heading in to this year. Some guys I talked about up top, tight ends, right? Alex Bauman. I talked about him a little bit yesterday, I believe, but I want to go back to him. This is the the tight end. He looks like a defensive end, really. The big tight end from Tulane, originally from New Jersey, sort of that Jersey Shore area. And man, we didn't get to see him a lot in spring because he was injured. He played at Tulane, was very much a red zone threat, a double-digit touchdown guy in his career, but they didn't throw to tight end a ton. He had some big plays, got the game-winning touchdown against USC in that Sugar Bowl. If you remember when Tulane made that run to the New Year's Bowl games with Michael Pratt, Deerfield Beach Hall, and the quarterback. Alex Bauman, man, he is bigger than I thought. I thought he was going to be a light pass catching only type of guy, but he's strong. He's big. He's strong. He's big. It's not like Arroyo where it's just like exactly how you want to drop a tight end, but he's pretty strong. Comes from that Jersey Shore area. This guy's hitting the gym. Former basketball player, former defensive end in high school, very athletic. Just sort of like, I say this endearingly. He's just a jock, and I say that in the best way. This he wants to play football. He wants to lift weights. He wants to compete, and I think he's going to really, really help this team. He made a beautiful one-handed catch in the one-on-ones where I think it was Beck throwing it, but whoever it was, he had to stop it with one hand. Then he brought it in with the other two hands while being covered, and then had enough separation to go and run into the end zone. So very impressed by Alex Bauman and what he's shown these first couple of days. You can tell he's really, really wanting to play after missing most of spring. You're not going to replace Elijah Arroyo with one player, but I think between Lofton, all the things he does, and then Bauman, who is, let's say he's 80% of what Arroyo is, 75%, maybe not the speed component, but the guy that can get open and catch the ball and be tough. Now you're starting to make up for some of that loss. And I think we're going to be okay at the tight end position. Another guy is Luka Gilbert, who everybody talks about his blocking. And I interviewed him before the season, before the camp started at Media Day. I'm going to put that interview on CanesInSight.com. 7.5 million posts and counting. Sign up for free today if you haven't done it. But everybody always talks about his blocking, right? That's the story with Luka Gilbert. This guy's a blocker. He blocked in high school. He's 6'7", 260, right? And he loves to block. He said, I love to block. It's my favorite thing. I like blocking more than receiving, which you never hear somebody say. But let me tell you something. Luka Gilbert can catch. And the thing with Luka Gilbert is he's a fluid route runner. He's not the most sudden separator, right? It's not like, who would be the compare? Like Brock Bowers, obviously, would be like the ideal. But like Kellen Winslow or Shockey at Miami or Njoku, where they plant their foot in their ground and explode and get open. He's not that, right? But what he brings that separates him from, let's say, a McCormick, who was a very good blocking tight end for us, but maybe a little more limited elsewhere, is that Luka Gilbert has a huge catch radius. You throw it anywhere around him, he can extend away from his body, catch the ball with his hands, and bring it in. And that is a very, very nice quality to have when you're 6'7" and you're a blocking tight end. Because now you can run the ball, you can play that style of football, but you're still a factor in the passing game. He's not like a guy that goes out there and you're just like, all right, this is going to be a running play. If you match him up, maybe you'll cover him, right? Maybe you can cover a Luka Gilbert, but if you throw it up, he can extend and make a play. So keep an eye on Luka Gilbert. I'm continuing every practice. I get a little more confident in that tight end room. Everybody knows I think Lofton's the best player around, but I think that these other tight ends, I like the energy. I like their demeanor. I like how they compete. I like their size. I like their ability to just do different things and be tough in everything they do. I think we're going to have a good tight end group. I don't know if any one of these guys is going to replace Arroyo. That's pretty hard to replace. It's just a one-person mismatch. Lofton's a mismatch in his own way. He's not going to be running down the seam, running 4-5 like Arroyo, but he does a lot of other stuff. But I think as a group, this is going to be a very, very good group of tight ends. Better than I maybe expected it to be in spring. When you didn't have Bauman out there, and the guys, Brock Shaw, Luka Gilbert were just getting there. Seeing that after a whole summer, seeing that a continued development of Owen Ruskovich, the walk-on, who I think is going to help us. And then, of course, Lofton's the stud. I think that's going to be a pretty impressive group overall as you go down the line. I talked about Kellen Wiley earlier. Let's see if Kellen Wiley Sr. went back in the chat. But he is an impressive dude, man. He's just so big, so fast. I think he can do more in the passing game than maybe I thought he could as a freshman. I mean, we knew he was athletic, but usually that takes a second to learn. But he's showing some nice flashes in the passing game as far as defending the pass. We know he can rush the passer. He's really built like a defensive end. And he's doing the right things, man. He's trending in the right direction. He is different than like a John Vilma, right? Who he has all the answers. He's there. He's as a freshman, he's very, very, just advanced from that standpoint. Wiley is learning that. This is a late blooming player. Remember, this is the guy that was like a no-star that became a 4-star player, went to the university that was going to go to the University of Texas before Miami came and got him. But the size, the speed, the attitude, all high end. And I think the guy, he knows what he's doing. He's learning, right? He's doing the right things mentally just to get, true freshman. This is hard stuff. He's doing the right things. I'm very, very impressed with Kellen Wiley, man. And we talked about the buzz all offseason that people think this guy's, NFL first round pick type physical talent. Now you're seeing you don't know the mental part till they play, right? And I think you're seeing more of that he's more advanced mentally maybe than people think. And certainly just really, really doing a good job. I'm very, very impressed with Kellen Wiley Jr., the tight end, the linebacker, built like a tight end, 6'4", 230, 240. I mean, the guy is huge, and he is very, very fast. All right, get your questions in. I'll try to get some answers that I can give. Bauman and Arroyo both had 7 TDs last season from Kyle. Yeah, this is a very good red zone threat. Bauman, proven red zone threat. 904 Hurricane says they better be. Notre Dame was number 2 in the nation in defense versus tight ends. Look, they got safeties that are big. They got linebackers that can run. They're smart all across the board. It's going to be very tough to deal with those guys. So you need your best shot. We got some good players there. Shavoy Kane asks, what vibes do you get about the offense? They're seeing Beck running it after 2 days comparing to when you saw Cam running after the second day of camp last year. I'd say the biggest difference is Cam Ward was here in spring. So you kind of already knew what you had by end of spring, right? Remember the spring game? If you guys remember Cam in that spring game, it was just like it looked in the season. You could watch that tape of the spring game and you turn on tape of the season. It looked kind of the same. So, Beck, this is his second practice. So I think he's just behind in that respect. But I would say the vibes on offense are good. I think there's a lot of confidence in Carson Beck. I talked about some of the differences between Beck and Cam yesterday, but I really think the biggest one is, just that Cam is going to hold the ball to make the big play. They're both equally smart. I put them at the A+ level of football intelligence, plus they played a ton of games. But I think Cam will see it, and then he's so confident in his ability to elude the tackler that he'll just hold on to it, and he's looking for that home run play more so than Beck. Not that Beck's not aggressive, and not that Cam won't sometimes take the easy play, but I think Beck is, because he doesn't have that, like Beck can't just hold the ball and say, if someone breaks through, I'm going to get loose and throw it, right? He doesn't have that dynamic ability getting out of the pocket. So Beck is going to get rid of it faster, and he's going to take the check down, not in a scared, passive way, like, oh man, I don't know what to do, let's just check it down. But like, hey, Mark Fletcher's got 10 yards of grass in front of him. Here's a quick pass, go run somebody over. More like, I'm not using this as the comp, so I always have to preface this before I say anything like this, but just trying to illustrate an example that people will know. Like Tom Brady he was a guy that always took the check down in his career since he was a rookie at New England, but he was never a check down Charlie that was afraid to throw. He just, if he had a good opportunity to check it down and pick up yards and keep the offense moving, he would do that and punish the defense that way. Beck's like that. Not saying he's Tom Brady. Don't get it all twisted. But I think that's something that he has in his skill set. Another thing about Beck that it's funny, I noticed it, and the more people you talk to that like are at their first practice, maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a former coach, maybe it's just someone just sitting at practice watching. One thing I've noticed is they will all say, the first thing they'll say about Beck is, man, he looks big, and then particularly his legs look big. Beck has like running back legs. So I think some of these things you got to see in person to really appreciate. There's a physical presence to Beck. You heard Mario talk about it in his interview yesterday. So there's a physical element to Beck that is impressive. That you kind of have to see it. It's not as obvious on tape necessarily, but he has that as well. Cam was really strong too. He had an underrated strength with Cam Ward. That's why he shook off so many tacklers that were coming into the pocket. So strong, older player who can throw the ball. His arm did not show any sign of being tired after yesterday. At least it didn't look like that. He was throwing the ball pretty powerfully, and with all the arm strength was there. He was explosive in his arm. Bryce Fitzgerald to me is a name I want to continue to highlight. Who's playing safety. He can do some really nice things. And my question with Bryce Fitzgerald is, everybody knew the knock on him in high school was, is he going to tackle? He's the best athlete in South Florida. He might have been the best athlete in the Southeast, or at least one of them last year. And you talk about state champion in basketball with Belen Jesuit, my alma mater. Transfers to Columbus, wins the state championship in football, wins the state championship in 4x1. I believe his PR is like a 10-6, 8-win-aided. Definitely, probably 10-8, maybe 10-7-9 or something, unwin-aided in that range. So fast guy on the track. So athletically, elite. He ran a 4.4 laser at the Under Armour. So you're talking about elite athlete. On the field, great ball hawk. He was making all kinds of plays as safety. He was basically like Camp Kitchens in terms of turning the ball over. But the physicality wasn't there on tape. Didn't want to tackle too many people. And wasn't pushed as hard as maybe he would be at Miami at times. Sometimes a great athlete like that at a school like Belen or Columbus, you can get away with more stuff just because it's not UM where you have a ton of high-level athletes everywhere. So he didn't have that element in his game in high school. Question with him was, is he going to be a safety? Which we need a safety. He has the size to play safety. He has the ball skills, but maybe not the physicality. Does he play corner? He's definitely fast enough. He can cover. Does he play receiver? Which he did in high school as well. So I think with him, and he's also, of course, he's going to return it regardless. He's one of the better returners on the team on paper. We'll see how it does in games. With him, I think the plan is, no one told me this, but just the fact that they put him out at safety tells me this is the plan. He's 190, 5'11", 6 foot, probably closer to 6 foot. So size, no problem. He looks good physically. I think the idea is put him at safety. If you can't hack that from a physicality standpoint, you go to corner. If you can't handle that from a physicality standpoint, you're a receiver. But by the way, there's a lot of good receivers out there on this team. Dalen Upshaw, another one that continues to catch my attention as a freshman. Of course, Malachi Tony. I don't even treat him like a freshman anymore. He's going to be a huge factor on this team. So we'll see what happens with Bryce. You're not going to get that in the current practice style because we're not hitting enough. But he looks good, man. He looks talented. You can see the size. You can see the athleticism. He is he's really a high upside player, and you hope you find his spot. There's my guy, Kellen Wiley. Let's go. Telling you, man, your son is on the right track, man. Physically, everything else, we know that, but he's making plays. You can tell he's working hard. That's always a good sign. Martin saying, seems like we have a bunch of great tight ends. It's a dumb question. Is it possible to have 4 tight ends in as a receiver when you're in a short yardage goal line situation? I'm not going to say we have a bunch of great tight ends yet. I'm excited about the room, but there's more time to prove what they really are. I would say in terms of like goal line and short yardage, which by the way, we were excellent at last year, probably as good as there was in the country. One of the things that we can really, where I think we're going to kill teams at short yardage is that we have Elijah Lofton, who is 250 pounds, 240 plus pounds, who can play fullback, who can play tailback, and who can go line up and run routes and burn any linebacker or really any safety. And then you have Mark Fletcher, who is 225 pounds on a diet, very physical, can also play fullback, can play tailback. And then, of course, Lyle himself is a big back with over 200 pounds and plenty of power. And Marty Brown, the guy, he's in that 220 range, and he's the talk at camp just in terms of being in the uniform, man. He wears every single cut off and stuff just to show off the guns and the thighs. So he's definitely trying to remind people how strong he is, but he is. And he has good tape as well. You saw him at North Dakota State winning the FCS Freshman of the Year. So with all that said, we should be good on short yardage because of that personnel, even before you get to the tight ends. So I think you could potentially get a lot of tight ends on the field, including if you include Lofton as a tailback, you really could. But I think you also want to get your tailbacks on the field because those guys are talented, and put Lofton in that boat. Noel asking anything on Armando Blunt. I'm trying not to read too much of the defensive lineman right now just because the level of pads and physicality is lesser. When it gets to a more scrimmage setting, I think I'll talk more about those guys. But I'm a big Armando Blunt fan. I think he's extremely intelligent. I think he's very physical and powerful. I think he can run. I think he's going to be a really, really good player for us. He's one of the guys I'm most excited about this season because everything you hear about him is that he's just so nasty on the field and high motor. He'll run things down. He'll put his hand in someone's face if he needs to. Hopefully not get a penalty, but he's just a nasty kind of guy. And then on top of that, he's super athletic. He runs with the linebackers and is a 3.7, 3.8 student at UM. Is like a 17-year-old. Pretty good combo, right? So I like Armando Blunt. I'm one of the biggest fans there is of him, but I think it's just too early to hype him up because they're not doing enough. 904 asked about David Blaze. Same thing. David Blaze out there. David Blaze is going to be a big factor on this team. I'm not going to read too much into the defensive lineman right now because there's just not that much going on. Coach Jenko, game on the line. Who are we getting the ball to? It's a great question. We'll find out. CJ Daniels, I think, is the one who is going to be the kind of the default name on that list. Like we play tomorrow, I think that'd be who you're getting it to because he has the experience. He's older. He's physical. He can catch the ball away from his frame. He has all those things. He looks healthy coming off that foot surgery, which held him, that bad foot held him back at LSU. I see him going better in that direction. And there we go. Don Vaughn agrees with us or agrees with me. So being the bad pick right now, but long camp. I think Elijah Lofton is someone that could potentially get in that role. You hope JoJo Schrader continues to build towards that. I would put strength again as and physicality. Not that he's soft at all. He's not, but just being able to kind of withstand the battles. That's going to take some time, I think, with him, but we'll see how that goes. And Malachi Toney, man, I don't want to give him any of these categories because he's a true freshman, so he's got to prove it. But if Malachi Toney's the talk of the town by, let's say, week 3, would that surprise me? No, it wouldn't surprise me at all. He is really, to me, more of a veteran starting type player to talk about as opposed to a promising true freshman. That's how I'm looking at a Malachi Toney based on this offseason, the spring, and what I've seen right now. He's pretty special, man. On paper, we got to see it in games. Dave G asking about Chance Robinson. We got a lot of questions about. He's playing. He made some catches. He's playing. So that's good to see is that Chance Robinson is back. He's practicing. That's kind of step one. Long road for him because he had missed so much time. Doesn't look slow or anything. I mean, it looks healthy. So now it's just a matter of kind of, making up for lost time and making some plays. He's physical, which I like. Phil L, fastest player on the team. Jared Pringle, I would say. If I had to guess the fastest players, and I'm going to lean on track time because I think that's the most objective way to look at it. Not always exactly the same as football speed, but usually pretty close. I'd say Gerard Pringle. I'd say Xavier Lucas. Xavier Lucas probably the fastest on the track. So just to give you an idea, this guy's 200 pounds. He's a corner, 6'1". He's probably the fastest on the track. I would say, like I said, Gerard Pringle, the running back from Armwood, the freshman. He's really, really fast. Not as physical as some of these other backs, but brings that change of pace element. Jahmyr Gibbs was the comp. I'm not saying he's as good as that. I'm just saying this, in terms of like what kind of back that how you're going to use him and stuff like that. Who else? Who's the fastest back on the team or the fastest players on the team? Lucas and Pringle jump out. Bryce Fitzgerald, a very fast and dynamic player himself. Probably those three, right? Would be my picks. Keelan Marion, All-America kick returner from BYU, transferred here. He saw some of those kick returns. He's scooting. So I put him in all those categories. Questions about Nikar. He's out there. He's working. He's going to be in the mix. Got the new number 12. So there's a lot of number shuffling. I think Brock Schott went from number 10 to number 19, like Brock Bowers. Malachi Tony from number 12 to number 10. And then Tony was 12. So now the new 12 is Nikar. So a lot of shuffling going on with all these guys. Oh, thank you for bringing this up, Salo. Ray. Good day today for Ray. Joseph. Separated, caught the ball. Good day for Ray. He's doing some nice things out there. Had a very good spring. I'd be the first to admit I don't talk about him enough because I'm always so focused on, Malachi Tony and guys like that. Ray Joseph has been working very hard, intangible wise, elite, and has made progress to get more like what you saw in high school. You saw it in spring. You're seeing it now. I think he looks a lot faster. He's not wearing that big uniform with that number 35. But we'll see. We'll see where it goes with Ray. But I'm a fan of his. I know he's a hard worker. I know he's extremely intelligent. I know he's got a lot of tools. So he's doing better, man. He's doing better. Duncan Devils, how can I access the Zoom calls? We came a Canes Connection member last night. Appreciate that. Hope you use the promo code. If not, email me at CanesInsight@gmail. I'll get that squared for you. But you should get an email with it. If there's any other issues, just email me at CanesInsight@gmail. I'll take care of you guys. Yeah, so a lot of love for Ray. Questions about the football only facility. I can tell you there's definitely IPF expansion going on. The practices are in Cobb. So Cobb, for those of you who don't know, is that field next to Green Tree, which has the track around it and some stands. That's the Cobb. So that's where they're practicing while they're expanding the IPF. A lot of questions about Chris Wheatley Humphrey. He's out there. Looks pretty good. I mean, I don't want to read, like I said, with running backs, it's hard when you're not tackling them, because if you're not tackling them to the ground, how do you really know how dynamic they are and their balance and their contact, ability to take contact, their courage when guys are flying around trying to kill them? It's just a hard position to evaluate without the pads on fully and full contact on top of the pads on. So, I'll continue to watch him. I liked him in high school. I think he's gotten bigger. I think he's got a chance to be pretty good. So we'll see what happens with him. But I'm excited to see him. I would just say I lean more towards like the full contact scrimmages and stuff like that, and obviously the games when it comes to the running back position. This is a lot about getting in shape, knowing who to block, and things like that. Some of the running stuff is running, man. You can coach it. We have a really good running back coach, but these guys really have to show it in live bullets before you kind of know what you have there. That's why you're more confident. Mark Fletcher played last year, did his thing. Jordan Lau did his thing. Marty Brown, FCS, but at the best FCS program that produces a ton of pros and won the FCS Freshman of the Year, just like Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, Terrence West, Chase Edmonds, a lot of other future pros. So those guys are just more about what they're going to do than Wheatley Humphrey, and Pringle. Although Wheatley Humphrey has had some moments in those full contact scrimmages, he's getting bigger and stronger. And then Pringle missed a lot of time in spring, but came back in that spring game in full contact and did his thing. So, really bullish on that room overall. Martin says, thanks, D. You and your team are the best, hands down, to help me understand what's going on with the team. I appreciate you, Yucatan Kane. Appreciate you, Martin, man. Appreciate all your support of the show and everybody's support of the show. That's the whole deal. That's why we do it live with the chat, because without you guys, it's a very boring show. And again, appreciate everybody joining us in the chat. Keep the questions coming in the comments. And what we talk about. August 1st, back at it. Islas Canarias Cuban Express, the #1 Cuban restaurant on the planet, 40 plus years, 7 different types of croquetas, tostones. You got loaded fries, which is not necessarily a Cuban dish, but we'll Americanize it. They got empanadas, all the pastries, all the classic Cuban stuff that your grandma made is here. But then you also got Venezuelan stuff. You got Korean, all these kind of things. So if you're Cuban, you get other stuff that you're not used to. If you aren't Cuban, you got the world is your oyster. You got every kind of choice here that you need. And if you want to keep it traditional, you can keep it traditional. If you don't, you don't. Bowls. Cubanitos to kind of grab and go. You got the Croqueta County t-shirts that I always wear. They got those for sale. And then, of course, some of the best desserts on the planet. Islas Canarias Cuban Express. It does not get any better. If you know, you know. Anyone who's been there, my coach Jenko will tell you, there is Canes Comeback Tour. Great food, worth the drive. You can go all the way to Tamiami, which is a little further west, closer to FIU, or that's one location, it's original, or you could go to the Cuban Express, which is right there in the Dayland Mall Dining Pavilion, right in the center of town, close to right there on the Metro Rail. Very easy to get. All right, what other questions we got here? Dave Gagliano, is Embry the clear number 2? I would say yes. Yeah, I would say he is the clear number 2. 904, did you know that Mario is 4-11 in the month of November in Miami? That's one ugly stat. Certainly is. I would say Miami's overall stats in November, going back to Larry Coker, and the later Larry Coker years, are probably pretty scary. If someone wants to, maybe that's a good article. I know Jaden Hewitt's on the show, on the chat. Maybe that's a good article to work on next after the next one you're working on, which is Miami in November, man, because it's ugly. I think every single coach in Miami struggled in November. Obviously, this year was a November struggle. So I think the biggest change that Miami can make is finishing strong in November and winning. I think the only time we really had a great November, correct me if I'm wrong, would have been like Mark Richt. If you remember his first year, we started off like 4-4 or something like that. We were struggling out the gate, and then towards the end, we picked up and really started crushing and had that big bowl win. Shout out to Amon Richards; he was just so dynamic in that time period and everything else. So I think that's the last time I can remember us really finishing strong. So we got to get this thing done in November. Whether it's Crystal, whoever else, Miami needs to get this thing done. Yeah, Canes 5 straight wins. Good era. A lot of optimism around the program at that time. Novice gamer, any quarterback looks like a dual threat or close to it. No, I think they're all passers. The one guy that I think can run the most as far as like running for yards, it would be like a Judd Anderson. I think when he puts his foot down on the ground and starts running, he picks up speed very fast, big strides, twitchy, and not afraid. Beck can run if he needs to. Emery has run more. I wouldn't put him as a runner. Luke Nichols really good at kind of creating space to throw, and he did a lot of short yardage running in high school. They did some design runs with him, the old Tim Tebow, Jalen Hurts plays. Probably not so much at the college level. So I think running wise, no, I don't think any of them are very much. I don't think any of them are very much like running threats. But Judd Anderson, I think, could run. Martin Dubay, November means something that's wrong with strength and conditioning, also an ability to adapt to cold Northeast conditions. We'll have to do it this time because we're going to Virginia Tech and Pittsburgh, right? So I guess what you call Mid-Atlantic, just about to be the Northeast. It's going to be cold, so we're going to need to win those 2 games. I believe they're back-to-back up there. I wonder if the team might stay up there. Maybe the team stays up there in practices. I don't know how that works with the test and like the academic part, but that'd be interesting to see. Don Vaughn, with avoid injuries to our thinnest positions, and we'll be fine. That's the name of the game this time, man. We got to avoid injuries. Scary time right now. So far, so good, but it's a scary time. Guys are going to get hurt, and you hate it. It's the worst part of football, and you hold your breath every time you go through these camps. Canes come back towards it. He drove to the original Islas Canarias from Fort Lauderdale, and he said it was worth the drive. So listen to my man Canes comeback tour. I'm not going to steer you wrong. This is the spot. Ask any Cuban, Miami person. They'll tell you this is the real deal. There's no gimmicks here. Canes 305, Sebastian Font, my guy, the future, who did a great breakdown right after practice, after the media session closed. Those guys took off. And he said we're the best running back 3 in the nation. Look, time will tell. But the thing you can't say about Marty Brown, we certainly have the most productive running back 3 in the nation. The guy was a 1,000-yard plus rusher on a national champion team, FCS level. But there's an FCS team that produces pros all over the place at North Dakota State. So I think it's probably the most productive guy you're going to get at that position, but we'll see what they do. So far, so good when it comes to Marty Brown. He looks the part. Dave G says, speaking of Pittsburgh, you're coming up this way. Hopefully that game means something. I'll show you around town. Great Italian food. I do. I'm 50-50. I'd like to. One thing about Pittsburgh, man, I don't eat this kind of food, and I don't drink at all anymore, and I don't really eat this kind of food as much anymore. But I remember when I was kind of at the peak of both of those things, I went to Pittsburgh for work, and that airport has the heartiest food in the history, in a good way. I mean, you talk about meats, starches, just big, heavy food. You got the drinks, of course. And when you get to the airport in Pittsburgh, they got a giant statue of Franco Harris, which is pretty cool. We need one of those giant statues of, like, I don't know, Jordan Lyle or something here at the MIA after the season. Lauren Dubase, I hear the guys on Canes Sports say that Artavius Jones was impressive first day, but no other Canes broadcaster said any credence to that claim. Martin, what I would say is this. They're not like they have the thin shoulder pads, like the foam kind of things, the spiders. They do not have the thigh pads. They're not really hitting that hard. We'll see more of that maybe Sunday, but they're just not doing that much in that way. So for me to sit here and say, hey, Artavius Jones looks really impressive, it's hard for me to say that, not because he's not, just because I'm a little more reserved when it comes to these early camp evaluations or impressions of guys that are really depend on physicality. I look more at kind of like the big picture stuff. How do guys look? How are they moving around? How are they carrying themselves? Do they look healthy? Things like that. I'll tell you what, Jones, he looks good. He's definitely in shape. Not a fat guy at all. Very explosive and powerful, quick, freak athlete. He's a tight end, basketball player, champion weightlifter in high school, power lifter. So he's got a lot of physical tools. Just he's a little further behind coming in because he just comes from the Panhandle. They didn't play the best. Not they didn't play. They didn't have good coaches and good football out there, but it's not. American Heritage and St. Thomas and Chaminade, these guys are factories with a lot of money to kind of work on these coaches. Their defensive line coach or defensive coordinator is our defensive line coach, Jason Taylor at the time in St. Thomas. So these are big time coaches and just big money facilities. A lot of the advantages that like a school in Pensacola and the Panhandle is not going to have. I think it's from Bluntstown. So, and the competition, of course, is better. So he's a little behind from that standpoint, but physically he is elite. Or elite, I don't want to overuse that term. He has a chance to be really, really good. Who knows what the ceiling is? He's twitchy. He was a tight end and basketball player, so he can move his feet. He's a power lifter. He's got that broad chest. He's not a fat guy at all. So all those things are there with Artavius Jones. I think it's just going to be about getting it done in real football. Martin says that since I started listening to the show, jackfruit, ropa vieja, and trigo shakes are the regular. My guy, I get the same order. Maybe not the shake. I would go more with the potato than me. But trigo is good too, man. It's a classic. What do we question? Oh, snap. Mikey, is Jadis healthy? He's still working his way back. Jadis Richard. He got injured in that Duke game on interception. But look, I mean, we got a lot of defensive backs, man. So he needs to focus on getting healthy and being himself. Trey Moore's asking, how's the DB room? Physically impressive, right? That's what I would say with the defensive back room. Xavier Lucas, 6'1", 200 plus, runs a 4.3. Wisconsin sued us because they were so mad to lose him. 3 years of eligibility. Start there. Jose Frederic has been banged up since spring, but is pretty much back. He's still wearing that black non-contact, but he's out there mixing it up. He probably can play tomorrow, and he is very, very talented. I don't see – you worry about the sophomore slump always with a player like that, but you don't see it right now. He looks good. I talked about Damari Brown earlier, just very, very powerful corner who can move. Ethan O'Connor, not as big as those other guys as far as just strength. He's got pretty good, decent length and height, but not as strong as those other guys. But he can move. He can change directions. He can play the ball. A lot of good things with Ethan O'Connor's game, in my opinion. Charles Brantley, probably the best playmaker of the group as far as just the instinct, the aggression, the experience, being a Big Ten corner, starting corner for many years out of Venice. He's I believe, a fifth-year player. He's been around the block. He's played against C.J. Stroud, intercepted him. Dylan Gabriel intercepted him. This guy's been around the block. So he brings that element. Maybe not as physically impressive as the other guys I named, but you throw Zechariah Poyser in the mix. You talk about at safety from Jacksonville State, long, athletic, total package. From Wildwood, Florida. Someone in the comments corrected me because I always say from the Ocala area. And they said, say he's from Wildwood. He's the hometown hero. So he is from Wildwood, Florida, and a very talented guy, freshman All-America, kind of a late bloomer. Shout out to Terry Jefferson, Miami's Nickelback coach, who plucked him out of Wildwood to go to Jacksonville State, and then he came with him from Jacksonville State to Miami. So Zechariah Poyser, I talked about him much in spring. I think he's going to be the best safety we've had since Camp Kitchens. Hasn't been that long, but I think he's more on the Camp Kitchens level than the other guys we've seen. And Jacoby Thomas, who's a starter at Tennessee, big, strong player, has got the body type that you want. He's ready to hit. He's an Amari Carter type. I think he's more athletic than Amari Carter, who was a much better player than I think people remember. People always remember the targeting calls, but Amari Carter was a guy who played on some really good defenses and brought a presence. I think we need that kind of presence. I think Jacoby gets that kind of presence. And still early, again, the contact is limited, but you can see him in pads. He looks the part. You see him on film. He can hit SEC level. Then the backup safeties, Marquise Williams, Dylan Day, I think those are pretty good backup safeties, right? Guys that can make plays. Marquise Williams has played a lot of football, even played corner in the bowl game. He's that athletic and then has that movement skill. He can play the ball as well. Just an experienced player, more mature than he was as a young guy. I talked to him. He was the first to say, I've matured a lot. I'm just mentally in a much different space than I was a freshman. And you know that because he's still here. If he was still running around like a freshman, he wouldn't be here. So he's matured and improved. I used the Robert Knowles comparison, not to say that he plays really like Robert Knowles, but he can be a guy that peaks as a senior. Robert Knowles gave us some good snaps as a senior after being kind of left for dead. I could see similar trajectory for Marquise Williams, different player, more athletic, but I could see that trajectory with him. And then Dylan Day, I always compare him to Shelton Redwine, a guy who was freshman and sophomore, was special teams doing that, and then he became a safety starter as a junior, and senior year, he was outstanding and ended up being an NFL player himself. I guess he's Dylan Day on that trajectory. Maybe this year, more backup, rotation, special teams, then next year, starting safety, who's doing his thing. Kyle says, you see the All-ACC teams, what a joke. Clemson had 3 offensive line. Look, they had a good offense last year. They ran the ball well. They protected Klubnik well. But, I mean, I think our NFL draft is going to speak for itself on our offensive line. I think our production is. So, we'll see. Novice Gamer says, fastest safety. If Bryce Fitzgerald is playing safety, he is the fastest safety by far. If he does not end up staying at safety, probably Zachariah Poyser, I would say. Canes305 asking, who's the year 2 player that you're expecting the most out of? All right, year 2. Let me just, since I got to remind myself who are the year 2 players. The guys that I think are the most critical, we talked about this before, would be JoJo Trader on offense and Justin Scott on defense. You kind of need those guys to really develop. If I'm picking the year 2 players, I got to go with my favorite player on the team, Elijah Lofton. I think he is the best pure. If I'm ranking pure football players on the team that you could put at multiple positions and be powerful and effective, I would say Elijah Lofton, and I would say Mark Fletcher. Those are the 2 guys. I think Mark Fletcher could be a linebacker, could be a DB, or sorry, the defensive end, maybe even a big safety. Who knows? He could be a fullback and he could be a running back. Lofton could probably be all those things plus a wide receiver. So, I like those to me are the 2 best players, and I think Lofton is the best over. I mean, when I say best player, it's all just versatility, like football playing ability, not the most impactful. Francis, you have to put him in that category because of what he can do at his position. Carson Beck, if he's on at his position, Ruben Bain at his position, those are the guys that would stand out the most. Maybe even OJ Frederic. I put him as a sleeper in that category. But versatility and just overall ability, I love Elijah Lofton. He's my second-year player. 727 Kane, are you more confident in the wide receiver position? Yes. I was confident in spring, and I said it. The 3 freshmen we got are really, really good. Dalen Upshaw can make plays. Josh Moore is the first guy you're going to notice in practice. Malachi Toney is out and treat him as a freshman. He's ready to play right now and make an impact. So those 3 freshmen, I think, are real players. I think we hit on that freshman class of receivers. JoJo and Nye Carr and Chance Robinson. We'll see how those guys continue to develop. I like CJ Daniels. I think he's getting healthier, and that's what we need. Keelan Marion has his flashes. Tony Johnson's an experienced player. So I think that I don't think that it's Ohio State with Jeremiah Smith and Ibuka and all those guys, but I think it's going to be a good group and be able to do what we need to get done. I don't think it's going to be like 2022 where we just didn't have enough at wide receiver, and it hurt our offense. Odell asking, how about Derek Platt? He made any visible strides? Well, the first visible stride is that he's healthy. Right? He's playing. So that's good. And he's still in 13. Again, they're not hitting that much. It's hard to tell too much. His stride is that he's healthy. He's on the field, and excited to see him on the field. Big lower body, man. He's got kind of a different body composition than other guys. Just an unusual body type. But, man, he's stout. He can get it done. Also, a really smart guy, man. We interviewed him. He's like the mayor of Jacksonville. Just like totally elite, intelligence-wise, and just the way he presents, man. It's like a politician. A good politician, not the unimpressive ones, which is 95% of them. Snap, it's Mikey says, completely off topic, but how was Estes Park, Colorado? I loved it when I went. Got to come up to Glacier in Kalispell, Montana. Shoot, I'd love to. Glacier's definitely on the list. Estes Park was awesome. Rainbow trout fishing, whitewater rafting, horseback riding in the park, obviously hiking the park. I like to get away to nature, man. I mean, some people like to go to Europe, do those things, and all respect to them. But I'm a USA guy. I want to see every corner of this country, and particularly the kind of the natural parts of this country. So loved Colorado. My family had a great time, but there's no place I'd rather be than, 500% humidity on Green Tree practice field, or in this case, Cobb practice field. Miami, Florida, Coral Gables, Florida to be specific, August 1st, cooking. I got sweat. My shirt's still sweaty right now, but it's all worth it, man. Albert McKinney, how's Hayden Lowe doing? Kind of the same motive as Armando Blunt. Still early, but he looks like a 5-star. He is another one of these guys that could probably run for president. I mean, super intelligent, but on the field, he plays extremely hard and physical and nasty. He's not like with Blunt and Lowe. When you have guys that are that smart, a lot of times you're going to say that they might be soft. And these guys are like, not only are they not soft, they're borderline dirty. And I say that with love. So combine that with good size, elite speed, athleticism, 5-star players. Now you're talking. I think those guys are going to be like Georgia type defensive linemen. I'm not saying they're going to be Jalen Carter or whoever. I'm just saying they're in that kind of mold physically. Now it's about producing in that way. Martin Dubé, and I was thinking about this earlier, so I'm glad you brought this up. Always great comments from Martin. He said, people underestimate the 2025 class because they had limited numbers. I'd also throw in that it probably finished weak, which hurt perception for obvious reasons. I mean, it dropped. We lost some guys. We'll bet it is one of our best classes, judging from the number of freshmen who've been hits. We'll find out who the hits are. I don't want to be premature, right? They got to play football games. By the way, 1,100 on the show. Like and subscribe, please. I don't want to be premature on who's a hit and who's not a hit, but if you're asking me guys that I'm feeling pretty good about after seeing them, I'm talking about like really good after seeing them. Dante Simpson, I think, is somebody who really showed a lot in spring as a 3-star. You think you got a pretty good one there. Hayden Lowe, you feel probably a pretty good one there. Kellen Wiley, size and speed and just everything. I think you got a pretty good one there. I like the receivers. Luke Nickel, like any quarterback, you got to see. But I am a Luke Nickel guy. Gerard Pringle did well in the spring. The 2 tight ends look good. So, yeah, there's a few, man. It's going to take time. It's going to take time to kind of like you see with the series that I've been doing, which I got to get back to it. I got a little sidetrack with media day and travel and practice starting, but I'll get back to my series on the just kind of grading and reviewing the recruiting classes going all the way back to 2001, which has been an interesting project. It takes a while to really know how much talent you had in the class. And I don't think we're there yet. Jay Campbell says Carson Beck passes the CanesInSight thigh test confirmed. He sure does. CanesInSight.com, 7.5 million posts and counting. A lot of discussion on thighs, male and female. But yeah, check out CanesInSight.com, 7.5 million posts and counting, #1 Canes community on the planet. Shaboy asked, I need a family-oriented ski resort in Colorado recommendation from UD. Beaver Creek is probably the best as far as being tailored to families. They give you cookies when you get down from the runs. They got slides and sledding and all that stuff. They got the ski school is really good there. The negative of any kind of Colorado ski resort is that they are extremely expensive. So that's gonna always leave a mark when you go to Colorado. But putting that to the side, I think Beaver Creek is for sure the best bet from a family standpoint. That's where I take my family. Take a huge hit when I do it. I promise you, it's painful. But yeah, Beaver Creek, I would say is really good. Phil says Steamboat. That's another good one. A lot of questions on Hellcat, which is Chris Wheatley Humphrey. I think, again, he's bigger. He's moving well. It's just hard to tell running backs at this point in camp. They're not doing enough. Not because their fault, just the way practice is. 1,100 on her. Like and subscribe here. Let's see what's going on here. Martin says, I'm visiting Iowa City, and these clowns are all making comments about my Miami hat, saying Notre Dame will kill us. 59 degrees in August, so I can understand their brains are frozen. They just came out the national championship game. I'm sure they're confident. We know what happened the last time they came down to the Rock. It wasn't good for them. Different teams, I get it, different coaches. But we'll see. I think one thing to monitor with Notre Dame, which I have all the respect for, I'll take shots at Florida and say how overrated they are. I thought they were terrible last year before the season. Same as Florida State. I said that every show that those were 2 of the most overrated programs I've ever seen. Of course, you saw what happened on the field. They were kind of garbage. Miami beat them both easily. Notre Dame's not like that. Notre Dame, I'm not going to diminish. They are good. They're well coached. They're tough. They got tough kids that can play, that are strong, that are physical, that are well evaluated. They're technically sound. Obviously, great running game, great offensive line, great defense, really good corners. Corners, I would say, is the strength of their defense. And their linebackers are really good too. I would say the thing with Notre Dame to kind of keep an eye on is they have no quarterback named. right? It's a quarterback battle between guys that haven't really played. Josh Gross says CJ Carr, who was the presumptive starter through 3 picks in practice, the guy who's never thrown a pass in a game, like a college game. The grandson of former Michigan coach Lloyd Carr. They also have Kenny Minchie, who's not a running quarterback, but more athletic probably than Carr. Has a big arm from Tennessee. Both high school commits, not portal guys. So we'll see. Who's going to be that starter. I think the fact that there's a battle is pretty promising for the Canes, because that means you don't have like certified star at quarterback who like an Arch Manning. We're like, this is the guy, even though he hasn't really played a ton. We'll see. We've had trouble with first-time quarterbacks before. I think back to Bryce Young against Alabama. So it's not like we always kill these first-time quarterbacks. But first game, that atmosphere is going to be absolutely insane at The Rock. Last time Notre Dame came there, they said it was the best environment they'd been in, or the hardest environment they'd been in. So, we'll see. That's why they play the games. One guy I want to talk about here is my man Carter Toole. And he gave me this book right here at practice, which is 100 years, 100 games, the greatest football games in Miami Hurricanes history. You can get this book at the Miami Hurricane team store. I'll pull up the link right now. There you see it right there. 162 pages, full cover, hardcover for the coffee table. This book is awesome. Use promo code INSIGHT20 on MiamiHTS.com and you get 20% off your first item. But man, this is what I love about this book. So basically it talks about, like, as you can tell from the title, 100 years. It's Miami Centennial and 100 games. But what's cool is they will talk about some classic games. Like I just opened it up right here. Open up to one of the wide right games. Miami against Florida State, 1991. There you see it. So it'll talk about what happened. Like, these are games people remember, but they don't really remember all the details, or they might not have been alive or watching UM at the time. So you read it, it's a lot of details. There's quotes from like the telecast, from the newspapers. There's pictures. So it really brings these games to life and allows you to relive them. Because once you watch, sometimes you watch them and you forget about them. Here, it keeps them forever on your coffee table. 100 years, 100 games. Shout out to Carter Toole. And you can find that at the Miami Hurricane team store right across the street from the University of Miami, or online, MiamiHTS.com. Promo code INSIGHT20, 20% off your first item. Works at both. 904 Hurricane says that Louisville match is going to be interesting. They have 2 running backs returning who average 7.5 and 8.9 yards per carry. Ridiculous. With those little guys, Isaac Brown, Miami Homestead grad, it's very much about avoiding the big play. He made one against us, which killed us at the time. And then after that, he was less effective. So if you could avoid the one giant play, easier than it sounds, those sort of smaller, more explosive backs can be contained. But the reason they're on the field, the reason they have such high yards per carries, is because they're very good at making those explosive runs. Throw Desmond Reed from Pittsburgh, another South Florida guy from Miramar High School, who's an first-team All-ACC pick himself. Those are 2 All-ACC picks from South Florida. You would put in that undersized running back category, all-purpose kind of guys that are super explosive, first-team preseason All-ACC guys from our area. Tough to swallow sometimes when you lose those guys, but you got to avoid the big plays. Same with Jeremiah Love. Jeremiah Love's a bigger back than those two, more just NFL kind of first-round talent with the size. He's tough. He's definitely not soft, and the ability to make those big plays. But if you can ball up Jeremiah Love's big plays, easier said than done. But if you can do it, he's not the kind of running back that's going to just crush you, 10, 15, 10, 15. He's going to go, sometimes 5, 4, 70, right? So you got to get rid of that 70. Easier said than done. We were really bad with explosive plays last year. But I think, that's something that you always have to think about with these explosive backs, is avoiding those back-breaking plays. Martin Dubé, I watched a podcast called The College Football Experience. They said Miami go 7-5 or 6-6. I was just flabbergasted. I mean, look, whatever. What's our Vegas over-under? Let's see. What's my current Vegas over-under? I know it's changed a couple times. Let's see. For Miami Hurricanes, I'm just pulling up. Where do they got us at? 9.5, 8.5. I've seen both. I think 8.5. I'm running to the bookie and putting that one in. 9.5. That's going to be the question, right? I think Canes fans, and there's Canes come back tour says 9.5. I think for Canes fans, this is supposed to be a double-digit win season, right? You get back-to-back double-digit win seasons. Now you're becoming more of a respected team that is in that stratosphere. If you're expected to win double digits every year, you're a real program, right? we haven't been there in a long time. This last season, which I would characterize as ultimately a little disappointing there at the end. I don't think I'm going out on a limb with saying that with the way it ended. That was the winningest season we've had, or at least the second winningest season we've had since 2003, right? We're talking about 20-something years, or sort of 2004 maybe. So it's been a while that you've had these kind of like 2 decades since you only had 2 double-digit seasons at that time, turnover chain season and this season. So if you can start doing that every year, your floor has been raised. Yeah, Don Vaughn, 2017, we did win 10 games, kind of similar, finished a little weaker than we would have liked. But if you make that your floor, you're in good shape. So I think 9.5 is a good number. I think that's the story of the Canes, and you want to get over that, right? So they're working towards that and hopefully get way over it, right? You want to win the ACC championship, get into that college football playoff with a chance to win. Too early to tell right now with the Canes where they're at, but the biggest step, Carson Beck looks healthy. Everybody else looks pretty healthy. That's the most important thing when you talk about where we're at August 1st. A lot of football they played. We'll be covering it tomorrow. I believe a walkthrough, so you might not get a practice report tomorrow. I'll probably do a show in the morning. But lots to talk about with the Canes all camp. You can do it here on Canes Insight. Like and subscribe. We're going to do 1, 2, 3 shows a day. Who knows? Including instant reactions. CanesInsight.com, 7.5 million posts and counting. Talk to fellow Canes fans. Get the latest news all there. Sign up today. Go Canes.